Hi everyone and welcome to my studio. My name's Diane and today I'm going to show you a different way to paint a beautiful spring tree using just an unusual brush, a big round brush, a piece of sponge and some random paints. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, please don't forget to like and subscribe if you get value from this video. Every little helps and I appreciate it so much. Thanks very much. And now let's get started. Okay, so I've splashed a few drops of water onto my paper, which is just a sheet of 140-pound watercolour paper. In this particular case, this is Lana, but anything would do. And so just some random drops. And now I'm picking up, and I mean literally randomly picking up colour from my palette, which always has lots and lots of previously mixed colours all over it, and I have just sprayed it, made it wet, and I'm just literally hardly looking, just randomly picking up some colour. And you'll see why. This doesn't matter what colours you use as long as they're vaguely something greenish. And I'm using my number 11 round nylon brush to do this, and I'm trying to leave a few holes in the water, in the paint. But it doesn't really matter too much how this comes out. So basically I'm making a tree shape, and you'll see what happens next in a minute. So I've picked up a piece of natural sponge. It's not synthetic, not the kind that you use in the kitchen, but this is a natural sponge. You can buy this from art supply shops, and it was dry. It's not wet, it's dry. And with that sponge, I've lifted off most of the paint that I put on, leaving me with a very light, completely random, uneven patch of light colour. And now I'm using a sabre brush or a script liner. It's a very fine, long-haired brush. This one is made by a company called Leonard. It's called an Lanaquarelle. I got it from Great Art. I haven't looked to see yet whether it's available on Amazon or anything similar, but I'll put a link in the description if I can find one, and you can have a look for yourself. And with that brush I'm picking up dark brown. It could be sepia, it could be raw umber and black, anything like that. And I'm just picking that up with this brush and very lightly drawing in the branches. And here I've just put one stroke of grey in, a lilac-y grey, to indicate the ground, and I'm allowing the colour from the trunk just to bleed into that. And you can see that I'm letting it blend, and where there wasn't any paint or where it was dry, the branches are quite well defined, but where the paint is still wet from before, it's obviously going to spread. And I'm just using a very light touch to indicate the fine branches at the ends of the bigger branches there, and drawing the colour out. Still being quite random about this, and to be quite honest, I didn't really know where this was going to go when I started it, but it was one of those things that just developed. And you'll see at the end it turned out quite prettily. I'm quite pleased with the way this worked. I've never done this before because I've never had this particular kind of brush before, as a matter of fact. And you see, this is the great thing about YouTube. It teaches everybody something. Even those who think they're teaching other people can really learn great stuff. And that's what's happened here. So for the base, for where the tree is standing, I just put one stroke of grey down there, and then I'm allowing the trunk paint to sort of bleed into the ground in a natural kind of way. Now I'm dropping in some more darks to indicate depth, as the tree isn't a flat thing, and so a bit of shadow will give you obviously the interior of the tree. This is actually quite fun. It took about 10 minutes to paint this tree, and when it's finished it could make a standalone picture in a nice frame, or you could of course use this technique to paint trees in a bigger picture which has more trees than one. If you feel you've put too much paint on, don't hesitate to lift it off with a tissue, which is what I just did at the top there, where the light would be hitting the tree from the sun. We have trees that are looking a little bit like this in our garden at the moment, with the spring just around the corner, just beginning to be green. I'm just lifting out a little bit there again to give another slightly lighter patch. I decided to keep the trunk quite nice and thin, so it looks quite delicate. It sort of matches the delicacy of the little branches, little twigs. The success of this tree definitely depends on the brush. You might be able to make it work with a very small size round brush, like a size 2 or 3 or something like that. But what's great about this long-haired brush is that the movement of the stroke is much more flexible than it would be with a short-haired brush. So you get, I don't know, it just seems as if it has a little bit more life in it, really. And I'm still using pretty much a random darkish colour. I think there's mostly black and sepia and burnt umber, raw umber, something like that in the branches. But you could use any colour combination really, as long as you have a mixture of lights and darks. You could use this technique to do an autumn tree, and I think that would look really good if you used things like quinacridone gold and burnt sienna and a dark olive green or something for the branches and the leaves. That would look very effective too. I might try that. I remember one artist that I learnt from once saying that when it comes to painting trees, always remember to leave some holes in the foliage for the birds to fly through. And that's something that always comes into my mind when I'm painting a tree, that you have to remember that they're there for birds to live in and to nest in and to fly through. So there have to be holes, and if you have holes in your foliage, it'll look much more natural than if you just paint one green blob. It's funny how you pick up all these little tips over the years. I can't remember who it was that said that now. Might have been David Bellamy, but I'm not sure. Now I'm looking at this and thinking to myself, the other thing is always to make sure that you have one side of the painting warmer than the other, which means one side of this tree is going to have more yellows, more warm colours in it. And so I'm adding a hint here of transparent yellow, that's probably, or it might be sap green, just there. And on the right hand side, I'm going to come in with some violet shades to give the contrast. The contrast in warmth. So this is, in this particular case, Winsor Violet, dulled down a bit with some green, but still it has that bluish hint of blue in it. And this serves two purposes. One, to balance out the tree to make it a little bit more symmetrical, and 2, to give more emphasis to the warm side, because by putting in your cools on the right and underneath, you emphasize the area that you've made warm. So there we are, that's the final finished tree, and I hope you enjoyed watching me do that. I hope it would be helpful and that you learned something. I know I certainly did. If you want more information about the brush that I used, please don't hesitate to ask in the comments below, and I'll be only too pleased to point you in the right direction for getting one for yourself if you want one. So meanwhile, I hope that you are all enjoying your painting journey with me, and if you are, I would be really appreciative if you would give me a like and make sure that you're subscribed and that you've hit the bell so that you get notifications when new videos go up. So for now, I'll just say bye bye from me and see you again soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.